I am pleased for the opportunity to talk to our fellow Liberians and to learn from them on how we can proceed to build a better Liberia. Challenges that all developing countries face, particularly in Africa. And we have the opportunity to take a look at our problems and see what are the opportunities that we can use to overcome the challenges. We all talk about poverty. Liberia is on the brink. Since the end of the Civil War, nothing has fully materialized to get us fully on our feet. We had 12 years of the Ellen Johnson administration. She did the best she could. She passed the job on to His Excellency President George Weah, and he's having his own challenges. And the problem, as I see it, is not so much to assign blame to anybody because we are all involved as a national agenda, as a national mission, as a national obligation to see how we can find common ground. Even though in Africa, the mentality often is for people to say, yeah, you elect me and I will do everything by myself.
Yeah.
But one finger cannot pick lice. You must minimum have two. In the case of genuine development, you need all hands on board because the beneficiary include the nationals and the friends of the nationals who are committed as partners to make things better.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you. And we're going to get deep into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to focus on Liberia. Again, we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In today's topic, we're going to look at building a better post-war Liberia. So we have challenges, we have opportunities. And my guest is Ambassador Dr. James Teah Sr. He's retired. Just a little bit about someone who needs little introduction. Currently, he's the executive director of the Africa Agenda for Dialogue, Advocacy, Development, and Reform. This is the job he's been doing from May 2008 till present. He's been the Director General and Professor of Public Administration, Public Policy, Human Resource Development and Management, the Liberian Institute of Public Administration that was in up to 2003. Dr. Tarpeh also served as ambassador to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's the founding director and dean and professor of the Ibrahim Babangida International Graduate School of International Studies. That was before and a little bit after the war. He also served as an adjunct professor of African politics at the American University School of International Service all the way to 1998. And I told him this is my favorite position that he held, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Professor of Public Admin at the University of Liberia. That job he did from 1978 to 1984. He served with Dr. Anthony Brown Sherman, who was the president of the University of Liberia at that time. I just want you to know that he got his PhD in.
Go ahead.
Dr. James Teah, are we having some technical issues there? I hope not.
You give us some music.
Hello, Dr. Tarpeh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Hello, Dr. Tarpeh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for that short internet issue we're having here.
Can you hear me?
I'm so sorry for the break in transmission. We are having some technical issues. Hope this issue can be quickly resolved so that we can continue on this broadcast. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In today's edition, we have Dr. James Teah, and our topic is the national challenge and obligation for all concerned and patriotic Liberians to help build a united, equal, just, corruption, and impunity-free, progressive society for a better post-war Liberia. Dr. James Teah is a former vice president at the University of Liberia, former ambassador to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, also former director of the Ibrahim Babangida School of International Studies. Once again, Dr. Tarpeh, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis, for the invitation, and I'm looking forward to learning from you and the rest of our audience on how we can build a better Liberia, a better West Africa, a better Africa, and a better world community. Thank you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, there's going to be a little more of a presentation style where Dr. Tarpeh believes there are ways, challenges, and opportunities that we can build a progressive society for a better post-war Liberia that is for all of us, including Liberians and friends of Liberia. And Dr. Tarpeh is our guest. We want you to please join us, share the show. He's retired now, but with a wealth of knowledge, and we are trying to dig into that a little bit. By the way, this is just an introduction to what we're going to be going through for some time as he shared his knowledge on how we can build a better post-war Liberia. Dr. Tarpeh, it's all yours.
Well, we have several approaches here. The first that you gave me was the three-phase comparative analysis. One is the pre-1980 coup, that is Liberia before 1980. The second is the period of the coup, that is military rule in Liberia. The third is the post-Civil War that followed towards the end of President Doe's era. And for 15 years, our country was in the middle of a bloody civil war. But that is also part of history officially, but the consequences are still with us. We do not fully know or appreciate how we got into this conflict, but they've been there. And now that we are in the second phase of a democratically elected government started by Ellen Johnson in January 1985, leadership started 86. It's 2006 to 2018. And at the end of that, she was succeeded by the present president, His Excellency George Manuel Weah. The challenge in all of these things is, what do the leaders bring to the table? What is their agenda? And the issue of agenda is not a personal agenda, but an agenda which is a national agenda that will involve the welfare of all of the people, because the whole exercise in development is to make the lives of your people better. And if they don't get better during your period of stay, what are the problems? Are you willing to reach out to other people? But when you select the government of the day, you have to have the best minds, the best committed people, the best patriotic people. Because working for government, like all activities, is a service. In the case of government, it's a national service. So you bring the best minds who will bring the best brains and the best experiences so that you work as a team and then move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Tarpeh. Before you continue, I just want to bring our viewers up to speed. This is Focus on Liberia. Dr. Tarpeh will be discussing the national challenge and obligation for all concerned and patriotic Liberians to help build a united, progressive society for a better post-war Liberia. And in that, we're going to start with a three-phase comparative analysis of Liberia. That's from the pre-coup, the post-coup, and the post-civil war. That will take us to the role of the rule of law and good governance for national unity, development, and solidarity. Dr. Tarpeh will go on to explain the role of Liberia in Minor River Union, the West Africa, and Africa, the Liberian political economy since Tubman era, today and tomorrow. And we're going to continue and see a comparative analysis of Liberia's president since President Tubman to President George Manuel Weah, a historic political economic review of Liberia's mining industry, the causes and consequences of Liberia's 15-year civil war, the TRC's challenges and opportunities for national reconciliation, peace, and development, the impact and consequences of 2 centuries of U.S. military operations in Liberia. And then we're going to do a short overview of presidential powers, the Liberian Constitution, and the Liberian people. That's not all. We're going to end with an overview of the national challenge to help build a united, just, quality educated, equitable, corruption and impunity-free, progressive, self-reliant, productive, and better post-war Liberia. Doc, you have your work cut off for you. Let's begin with the three-phase comparative analysis.
Well, these analyses, the pre-coup analysis has to do with the founding of the country by powerful and influential men, many of them white, who send their children, free African Americans, to Liberia as a way of getting them out of the way in a major period in the U.S. when, with the freeing of the slaves and the question of what happened to my children and so forth. And during that, the American Colonization Society took that job over. The major crisis, major problem with that process, that period, was that the founding of Liberia and the sending of the free African American slaves to Liberia to begin a new life was not conceived in an integrated and just manner. It was based on the principle of we will send our children into a new land for the benefit of the sons and daughters of the pioneers. Now, there's something called justice and equity in society. When you serve both sides, a sense of fair play, then cooperation comes in. But if you patronize one to the exclusion of the other and call them natives, don't give them support, then resistance starts. So the history of Liberia has been one founded in injustice, consolidated on conflict. And so when many years later you have a 15-year civil war, it's a civil war that came out of the negative conditions under which the society was founded. But we've passed that stage now. We've had the issue of the American Liberians. Then we now had the issue of the native Liberians with the coup of 1980, which brought a military government talking about our people born soldier as an anti-American Liberian situation. But like all human development, the force of the American Liberian, they were not a monopoly on that one. So the sons and the natives came in with the military rule and the consequences of that, and the corruption that we talk about in the American Liberian system became even twice as much as what it was before. So the question then becomes, it is a human nature, it is a failure of effort, but more than that, it was the failure of educating and providing a solid basis for the incoming generation. Any society that does not put education and respect for knowledge, which then leads to the respect for the rule of law, that leads to good governance, will not succeed. You can jump over yourself 1,000 times. If quality people are not selected, who are patriotic, who are concerned and committed to building a better society for the benefit of all, not for few, you're not going to go anywhere too soon. And that has been the Liberian challenge in 172 years. So my own effort in these activities is to participate in the process of learning from each other about what knowledge is, the value of education, how to use it, how to select people and use them in an effective and moral-based manner that will give them dignity and respect. Anytime you select a people and give them reward, they don't have a commitment to that. And that has been part of my own criticism of the formation of the government of the 2006. When you have a society in which you now bring your legislators, you bring your various actors who are making certain amount of money before, during trouble time, and then later on you got a coup and they start making another set of money. And then after 2006, under the Ellen Johnson government, these people who never made $500 a month are making $10,000 a month. How do you explain that? How do you explain that you would pay such big monies out to a few without creating an elite class of special people now who are the new pharaohs? And if you use all of that money for individuals, what money is left to take care of managing the affairs of the country? And in that process, we abandoned education, quality education. So 12 years later, quality education in Liberia went down the tube. 12 years later, quality healthcare went down the tube. So where do we go from here? And this is the challenge that President Weah inherited. And I must admit that we Liberians should be proud of President Weah because he historically is the most successful in the field of soccer, of winning all of the titles with total respect and enjoy the commendation and respect of the world. That made him the embodiment of the soccer world career and made people to take pride in him as a person. And all Liberians and all friends of Liberia have a right to respect him. And that made him the hero that he was. Now, being a soccer hero is a global achievement. But then going from there to be a national leader requires a broadening of the network so that we bring the best people around to help President Weah to meet a national commitment of building a better country. Then you ask me 12 years that President Johnson was in office, what did she do? But that can be a research matter. You can set up commissions to study that. What did she do after 12 years? She said she was overwhelmed by corruption and she failed to reconcile her people. Now there's a one group, that's TRC group, and saying, well, bring the TRC group back together and see where we stop, and let's complete the process. A country cannot lose 300,000 people in an exercise called war, a stupid war, and then say, oh, let's forget it. If we talk again, then flower will come. And then you have my people in various positions saying, if you bring that TRC business back, then we'll go back to war. No, if you make a mistake, find out what the mistake is about, and then we move forward together. So that is the situation that we have. So we had a pre-coup period. And in that pre-coup period, just to wrap up on it, it was actively controlled and influenced by America's 2 centuries of U.S. military operations in Liberia. For 200 years, America controlled military operation in Liberia and through Liberia, West Africa. And this is where the CIA and other people did everything they wanted to do. This is where Firestone was brought in and produced rubber in order to enable America to successfully participate in World War II. All of these things are there. And in many people's minds, there was some positive aspect of these. But this coincided with the Topman era, and he was more had an open door policy. But at the end of this period now, Liberia goes into a conflict, and some of our American friends say, well, look, you haven't done anything for us, so we don't have time, we're looking for other friends. So for me, America has a moral obligation towards Liberia as partner who started together in the 1880s and thereabout. So this is where I want to briefly deal with the 3-phase thing that I have. But these will go on in more details as we expand the discussion.
Sure. You mentioned one key thing is about education. Before the show, I was looking you up, and there was a time I think you donated books to your alma mater, Cottiton, and you made a statement about education through the same statement, similar statement that you just made. And I just want to put that on the screen so that we can talk about it and tie in with what you just said.
Yeah.
Here is Dr. Tarpeh, and I read this. I saw this on the Friend of Cottiton University website. It said Dr. Tarpeh said Liberia has not made significant educational progress since independence. Unlike its West African neighbors of Ghana and Nigeria, our nation started, quoting you now, on the wrong trajectory of building a nation. The practice of Americo-Liberian and Native division is a part of that wrong trajectory. He emphasized that any nation that does not forge a united front will find it difficult to excel educationally. Dr. Tarpeh stated that Liberia lacks the opportunity and the leadership capability to move the country forward in achieving high levels of education and the furtherance of knowledge. He further indicated that if the people of any nation are not empowered educationally, they would not progress positively in life. He lamented that Liberians do not have respect for education and knowledge. Dr. Tarpeh, that was some years ago. Do you still stand by those words?
Definitely. It's even worse now after 12 years of the Johnson administration, in which higher education at all levels, you remember many times, President Sally would say, this education is a mess. If education is a mess, then what do you do about it? What did you do about it? You are one of the most beloved African leaders in the world. How did you stay with 12 years of a messy education that today has left our young people empty and so forth? When young people are demanding their rights and wanting better things, what they really are saying, what I didn't like, I will get on the street now. Now we have elected President Weah, and he will deliver. Well, they gave him the vote. Now they want him to deliver. But are they qualified to benefit from quality education, which they did not get for 12 years? Are they qualified to benefit for quality health care, which they did not receive for 12 years? If they did not do so, then the challenge we face now as Liberians today is not to complain about poverty and lack of jobs and so, but to put our hands together and see how best we can lay a new foundation to found a better post-war Liberia. And that is for me the challenge.
Yeah,
And
and that's
at
a
the heart
challenge.
of the issue.
That's a challenge, but Dr. Tarpeh, I see you, or you are making a lot of reference to the 12 years of President Sirleaf. Is this as an, we're talking now, President Weah has been in power for 3 years now. Are you laying the blame solely on the feet of President Sirleaf? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I'm not laying blame anywhere. I'm saying that all Liberians of goodwill should now open their arms and say whatever mistakes we made, and President Sirleaf is not the only one that made mistakes. All of us made our share of mistakes because development and human interaction is a process. You succeed here, you fail here, and so forth. What is most important now is bring all of us together and let's look at the issues and see how we can rescue ourselves from the downward trajectory that we find ourselves in. And this is why, on one hand, I'm also pleased with President Weah. Recently, when he lost the election, the by-election, as well as the referendum, he openly admitted that that had happened. Now, that for me is a sign of a good leader. You must be open to your people when things don't work out. You be open to them when things work out. And so then he said he will open his arms to all Liberians so that together we can come and put heads together and find an answer, which means that political parties and politicians and other actors should not remain in their corner and say, I'm waiting for my time. I could do this. I'm waiting for 3 years. Then we'll go for election, and then it'll be my time to win. No, the issue in Liberia is building a better society. Now that he has opened his arms, I want the leaders of the political parties, I want the leaders of the civic organizations, I want the leaders of the student organization. They have a role because they are the successor generation for Liberia tomorrow. One of the things the Americans do that I admire greatly, they always say we build today for the incoming generation. If we don't lay a solid foundation for the incoming generation, what would be there? Nothing.
Yeah.
And in Africa and in Liberia, the bad habit has been eating what should be left or saved for the incoming generation while working hard to improve the society as it is. We now must make the sacrifice to say we will put Liberia first. We will put Liberia's future, Liberia's children as priority. We will put Liberia's elders and women and everybody so that we all can participate. The learning from this comes from Paul Kagame, who lost 1 million people in the 1984 genocide. But then after they got through, he said, well, we've lost all these people with their Hutus, with Tutsi and so forth, but we will bring ourselves together. Let's not call each other bad names. Let's just recommit ourselves and say, we made a mistake. Let us build on that mistake and make our country better. And today, Rwanda is the most aspiring, most respected country that is making a difference on the global scene. Liberia can do that too. Other African countries can do that. In that process, I also want to make a special appeal to our brothers and friends in Nigeria. Nigeria is the largest African body with the greatest talent. If Nigeria can get on board and provide leadership along with South Africa and other actors, we can transform Africa. But we cannot do it in our separate corner.
There's some trouble there.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Our next point, the rule of law and good governance for national unity, development, progress, and solidarity.
Well, this is a very important area that makes for all activities. Any society that is governed by rules can expect to have uniformity, predictability, mutual respect in its operations. Once the rules are in place, then the question of good governance. Good governance means do unto your fellow man what is right by him. Set up the institutions that will manage the affairs of the society on a meritorious basis, not on the basis of his friendship with you or his tribal background or his educational connections or financial connections and all of those things. Once you follow good governance, there are basic principles that are put in place that are controlled by the rules of the society. And once you put good governance in place, you can be sure to get positive results that will ensure and consolidate national unity, development, and progress under solidarity. If we want to go on to the area of the Mana River Union, the same principle holds the role of Liberia. Liberia, as the oldest African republic, also should have leadership roles. But you get leadership roles only when you have quality leaders. It is not a title that we're talking about. It's putting people in position who can effectively perform the duties and gain the respect of others so that those people will follow. People will not follow you if they don't respect your knowledge of the subject, nor they do not have respect for your love for them. The development of society is based on starting with love for yourself and love for your country. When you have those two, then you are able to make the kind of sacrifice that development requires, because development is not a one-dimensional field. It has its ups and downs. But if you love your country, you are able to mobilize your people, encourage them in hard times and good times so that you move forward together. Because in the end, it's a progression, generation by generation. One comes in, moves on, leaves the other one to pick up and make a difference. And each one will be better than the one that succeeded. So the issue of Liberia's role in Mana River Union, which was an area that was critical when it was founded by President Tarpeh and his colleagues, Shaka Stevens, and the I think Sekou Touré, Sekou Touré or the one before him. That was for the local one. Then we went to the greater one, the ECOWAS. ECOWAS has done a great job. And in that too, Tarpeh did a lot. He was one of the key foot runners to get ECOWAS on the ground and make it work. Then there's Africa itself. Most of Africa was colonized. How can we now get Africans and Africa from the colonial mentality that Nkrumah and Sekou Touré and Nyerere were talking about to an African, Pan-Africanist movement that will work for the good of Africa, so that the continent cannot continue to be dependent, running from country to country, begging for aid. What can you give me? What do you give aid to a country that has the resources? You got most of the resources in the world are in Africa. Then the same Africa go behind the people, go after the people and say, well, we want aid. What do you need aid for? All you need is technical assistance and support to be able to use your expertise to utilize your magnify and make productive your resources. And then you can trade with them and bargain back and forward. But if you abandon your resources, give it to them and say investor will take care of it, and the investor gave cut to those who are in leadership role, and the rest of the economy resources are taken back to their home countries, you will never develop. You can say I invested $1 billion, $10 billion in investment. We had $10 billion come in. But where is the $10 billion compared to what the country has or now doesn't have? We must account for that. So if that is a mistake, let's account for that mistake and plan that future governments and regimes will do better than what we did before. And going back to the TRC process, restarting the TRC process to get the corrections that need to be made would be excellent. Ellen is no longer president. If she didn't cooperate when she was president because they said that she shouldn't have taken position, that period is past. Let her use her influence and her international connection to help us bring back the TRC so that the various institutions that the world community is calling for, the war crime, the economic crime, can be looked at. It is not to punish people who didn't do anything wrong. If you did something wrong, you can apologize for it. There will be a mechanism to deal with it, and then we'll move forward. But no respectable society can ignore not addressing the problems of the TRC and then move on and say, God will take care. God doesn't take care of stupidity. And we got to do better than that. The issue of the political economy of Liberia, particularly beginning with Tubman, is a very important one. It's an issue where the mining industry was key. The mining industry was the primary source of economic activity. What we failed to do in the mines, starting with Bombing Hills and then to Lamco, progress was made in the Lamco area because the Swedish people were socially supportive, whereas the Americans in Bombing Hills, they just drove the minerals on the rails to the free port, put it on the ship, and left. But that's not the way to develop. Like all development, you must have supporting activities. So while the railroad is there, neighbors in the places, investors who can be local people, will be able to establish businesses, create their own farm, create their own economic activities, so that businesses can be going on even while the iron ore is being taken out. Because when you take the iron ore out, you leave a hole in the ground. The question then becomes, those of you who do the thinking for the society, like the planning department or whatever title they gave them, will now look as to how do we replenish the empty holes with activities that will carry on human life in a positive way. So while I'm on this one, I want to make one serious observation. We did not need, nor do we need, a Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and all of that. The Ministry of Finance has a lot of work to do. Let the Minister of Finance just settle with the job of Minister of Finance. The issue of planning and development should go back to the Ministry of Planning, where in educated society that respect knowledge and are committed to serious development, will focus on all aspects of planning and development activities at all levels of society. Those who are doing education, those who are doing health, those who are doing science, all that planning and the interaction that takes place. And that is where, when donors want to come and say want to give something, you come to the table. In the experience of Paul Kagame, when people come and say, we want to help Rwanda, he said, we're grateful for your coming. Why do you want to help us? And what area do you want to help us in? And then the people, the donor will say, we want to help you in the area of healthcare. Okay, why you want to help us? Because we want to make people's lives better. Then they will sit down with the team of the planning people, planning ministry of Rwanda, or whoever is in charge of those activities, and then they sign a contract. This is the contract signed between the donor and the recipient. These are the goals that we achieve in this project that we are going to undertake. At the end of the project, within a fixed period, they send in auditors to examine whether those who came to help and those who received help got the results that they wanted. So that becomes an educational process, which becomes a practice. So donors who are looking for ways to deceive poor countries And poor countries' leaders who are looking for shortcut money for their private banks cannot be can be avoided. So for Paul Kagame, he doesn't have to worry about what will happen because his people have been programmed to put Rwanda first. In the case of Liberia, we seem to put Liberia last. Nobody seems to want to love Liberia. So how the hell you can develop this country if you don't love it? It's only when you love the country that you can make sacrifices for it.
And Doc, does that have to do with the leadership or the people? Because the argument always comes out like, okay, Paul Kagame is responsible. Some say no, it's the people. In fact, the literacy rate is this high, so it's the people and not Paul.
Well, is everybody involved with a relative comparison of what their shares are? In the case of Liberia, when you got 80% or 90% of people illiterate, what do you expect? When Paul Kagame tells you that in our educational budget from K to 12 grades, we put 90% of our budget in it, so that from grade K, quality education is in place. You're not guessing whether the child will go to school or will not go to school, whether the child got food to eat or will not have food to eat, whether the child got transportation to get to school. See how much trouble Liberian kids get. Even to get from home, if the parents can find the money, to have a reliable transport system to get from home to school and be able to find something to eat in order to learn, the environment to learn. How well are the teachers trained? How well are they paid? How well are they respected? If a teacher doesn't have a title and he doesn't have a rich relationship, you can't expect too much. So it is a sacrifice and commitment. And that is one of the reasons, even though I don't know her very well, but the other Nobel Prize lady, Bovi, I think her name is, has been making a difference. People listen to her and they respect her. And when she made that speech at President Weah's, I think was one of the first official 26-day speeches, I thought it was a very good speech. And it's still a very good speech. And it should be looked at. But coming back to the area of education, I think that our regulators as individuals are good people. They mean well. But in the process, we must create an environment where their educational activities can be put as a priority. And yes, I'm the founding dean for Babangida School. I should like to bring people over to Babangida School and let them have and let's spend the time educating ourselves. Once you know what is involved and your responsibility, in no way you can shortchange yourself. And at the Babangida School, I know I had 2 sets of classes, 27 students at the mansion, 79 on the LU campus. And now and then the students will mix and back and forward. And so one of the things that President Doe did, he put that education as a priority. And he put a part of that money along with Friends of Liberia, including President Babangida, to found that school. So much that people say, well, doing no book. In the end, if you compare Liberian leaders up to that point, Talbot and Doe made more impact during their administration than any other Liberian leader up to now.
Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. Yeah. We are in discussion with Ambassador James Teah Sr. He's retired. He's been a Vice President of the University of Liberia, founding Dean at the Ibrahim Babangida Graduate School of International Studies, and also the Ambassador to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's go to our next issue, which is the causes and consequences of Liberia's 15-year civil war and the TRC challenges and opportunities for national reconciliation, peace, development, and unity. I'm curious to see the causes of the 15-year civil war.
Yes, that is important. And briefly, I will go back to Doe for a second. Mm-hmm. And a typical example of the success of the Doe administration, you remember when he brought his $5 coins?
Yeah.
Nobody could take $5 coin and send it to Bank of America. You kept it at home and you used it to build your house. So that was part of the impact of that strategic thinking. Because if they have been tied to US dollars, some people will take their share and take it and send it to their private banks. But when you have local currency that you can't put in your hip pocket and run away with, you use it for creative things.
Today we have two currencies, US dollar and the Liberian dollar.
Every country should have its own currency, and you use the other one for supplement. You can't be doing back and forward. That is part of the educational thing that our our economists, Dr. Tipote and others, Toga McIntosh and others, we hope that you also invite them and let them bring their thoughts to these kind of issues. Because you cannot run a country with your economy going back and forward, back and forward. You have to have a steady, because then you have confidence. And the third area, which I hopefully will get to, the issue of the rule of law. If your legal system is not moving in the correct way, then you have some problem. But we'll cover that. What was the last one that you raised the issue on, sir?
The causes and the consequences of the 15-year Civil War.
Well, again, the Civil War was based upon the lack of opportunities. The society that was founded from the 1800s to whatever period we pick, that was not founded on justice and equity and fair play, but was founded on who you are not, created that problem. So the divisions, the insecurities, the deprivation, because at the end, development is about opportunities, giving your fellow man a chance to use whatever resource available to improve the society, not himself, but the society. Once you work to improve the society, you're a beneficiary as well. And then the lack of quality education has been part of the problem. Most of the education that we got in Liberia were provided, good education provided by missionary institutions. For the Catholic school, the Episcopal schools, the Lutheran schools, and they were also running hospitals and so forth. But in the end, you got to run your own show. You are the leader of your society. So the Americans built JFK, and they did a good job to the best of their ability. What prevents us from taking a national campaign and say, we will make JFK the best hospital, one of the best hospitals in Africa? Our leaders can take that opportunity. My own private view is I will, if I am asked, advise and urge President Weah to make that a national challenge. Not because if we build a quality hospital, everybody benefits from it. Not just a hospital, quality health system. The second point is they took the Dogliati Medical School and took a defender. Now, who did that kind of thing? How do you take Dogliati, which should be near to JFK, the Catholic Hospital, and the larger Morovia population, and they provide health services, and take it to Fender to do what there? So we have to urge the leadership of both the university and the administration to please bring the Dogliati School back to where it was. And let us work there and build the manpower. The manpower that we build from there now, health manpower, other quality manpower, can then go throughout the country and set up other institutions of that sort. You build the quality in one place and then you spread it. And that way you have a better impact on the situation. So the cause of the Civil War, lack of quality education, selfishness and greed, class of impunity, lack of respect for each other, all of these things are part of the problem. Then so the Civil War was caused by many things. And as I said, the continuation of this discussion will clarify the issue more and more.
Yeah.
But let's keep in mind that the purpose is not to criticize. It is to find answers to the problems. And that is the goal. And so I will not spend my time trying to blame President Weah for everything, or President Selig for everything. We now must open our arms, as President Weah has recently done after the election and the referendum, to all Liberians. Political parties, you come, set up a national commission for national development. And this is where everybody bring their piece of 1-2-1-2 and put it down there. Then the president now will work with the same group of people who are now have open arms and say, bring your best people, and we will put them to the job. Once you put the best people to the job, they will do a great job and then benefit those who did not have the opportunity to get quality education, and we will pick up and move forward. That for me is the way forward.
Just touch on the TRC piece, and then we can move on to the next.
The TRC is very important. It's very important because it was established, approved, and signed off by President Sirleaf, and it was a major achievement because she had to use her international connections to mobilize the resources. Now, starting something and getting the results and liking the results are separate activities. But that was a national institution that was set up. The mission of that institution is not complete. Even in South Africa, they just recently began to complete major phases of their TRC operation, peace and reconciliation. That's the goals. And those who did something wrong, you punish them, and then you give them time to apologize to society so that we move forward. But you don't lose 300,000 people, spread them as refugees throughout the world, and then say, well, that's okay, we made a mistake, we'll try again. And then one group go and say, we are the small soldiers, that joke will start another war. And then you have the leadership say, well, we're praying for peace to come. Peace does not come by itself. Whether the UN tell you or the UNIMAID tell you, peace does not come by itself. Peace comes by justice and equity. You create an environment in which somebody can see the benefit that he will get. So you can beg for peace. You create opportunities. You train the people and say, whatever we did wrong, let's make up for it. And when I see justice in my life and in the life of my children and my children's children, I will come on board. Like the people did in Rwanda. Yeah, my people killed this person, other person killed this person. But we cannot hold these things permanently against ourselves. But if we turn ourselves around for a new day of honesty and equity and justice, we move forward. And that is Paul Kagame's story. And that is the story that I like for President Weah to help us, to motivate us, to join together and put in place. Liberia is a great country. We are talented people. But we must be mobilized, encouraged, and subsidized and supported. Everything in Liberia is foreign owned, whether it's a bank or this and that. Before we used to have the agricultural bank, Liberian owned, housing bank, Liberian owned, this bank, Liberian owned, LBDR, Liberian owned. All of a sudden, these things are either owned or exploited by foreigners who are taking advantage while our people have nothing to do. We talk about Liberian women. They are also very smart. Let's set up a Liberian Women Business Association. We have a National Business Association. And let them move out and subsidize them. The issue of rice, they turn and give it over to the Lebanese and other people. Let us cut that in half and say, Liberian Business Association, we will subsidize you to support you for 50% of the rice import. Work with the Lebanese, work with the Fulans and other people, and let's do that. Once you're doing that, you gave the Liberian business world a chance to create capital. Because in the end, you want to grow your own rice. You can spend your time importing rice. What the hell do you do with all the land that God gave you? What will you do with it? Leave it for there and be importing rice as a career? No. And then take agriculture seriously. The people, as you said, are giving grants. Let us engage the donor in a serious way. Let not just play with us. Sit down and say, you said, yeah, what can you do? We can do A, B, C. Just as the one let's do to them. What can you do? We write it down, we sign contract. The Germans come, they sign contract. Recently, the German government decided that they will withdraw from supporting Liberia. Somebody asked them why. I said, because we're waiting for President Weah to commit himself to reforming the society that he has inherited. Once he does that, we'll come back and give him full support. On the strength of that, today in Ghana, the Ghanaians and the Germans have partnership in businesses. We can do all of this. We should not have Liberian diplomats going around the world from embassy to embassy. Saudi Arabia, we say, I got some money here, we need some development assistance. No, we don't need that. We need them to give something that will help us to build our manpower.
Yeah.
And then we will use our manpower to build our own society. They will respect us more.
That is true. The next is the impact and consequences of the 2 centuries of U.S. military operations in Liberia, challenges of resistance and compliance.
That is the heart of the Liberian crisis.
Oh.
When the Americans tell you, a gentleman just did a book recently, his name is Hehn, Hahn. The first name is Niels. And the title is 2 Centuries of U.S. Military Operation in Liberia. Google it and find out what they do and how they do it. He gives the history of how from the 1880s to recently as 2015, that military operation in Liberia was comprehensively impacting all lives in Liberia. They even had the beginning, the pre-coup era was the pre-era where slavery was going on in the U.S., among other things. And in the 1920s, the issue between King and Barclay, the slave trade that was talked about in Fernandes, all of those things, these people were part of the process. What do we learn from them? How can they work with us? And the U.S. is our best friend. Now let's get them to say, you have, after 200 years in which we have ended up being poor and worse off, you have a moral obligation to help us, to work with us, to fill in the gap that we lost. Because you have a moral responsibility. 200 years, you are part of our problem. And the opportunities you had, you didn't give them fully to us. But we're not going to spend a quarrel about that. Let's work together. You say it is here. Let's ask them and the government of the day, especially under President Biden, who is also supportive of democratic changes for the betterment of the global community. Those are areas that we can work out. So organizations, Liberian organizations that are being formed for peace and understanding and knowledge, at the heart of it is knowledge-based industry. Knowledge must be the heart of our problem, not joking around. And once we get that, and so at the heart of the Liberian crisis is the 2 centuries of military operation, which dominated all phases of Liberian relations. Part of it, they used it to prevent colonial countries from taking over Liberia. That is good. But while doing it, they forgot to even recognize Liberia's independence until several years after Britain and other people did it. So how you can be my friend and you know my birthday, and some outside person recognize my birthday? But those are things that we can look at and say, well, that's part of the historic process. But whatever it is, Liberians must take responsibilities for ourselves. And just those who want to help must give us a reason and then collaborate with us. It is not a popularity program. It must be a serious historic history-making program. And in the maritime area, particularly the Coast Guard, we have 300 miles of economic zone. We have that sea before us. How can we not use it very well to create our own resources as an income resource? We have not heard Mr. Cummings said recently, Liberia is the only big country whose administration cannot run a $500 million budget. So I heard him recently saying that we should work for Liberia to start, for the government to start with a $1 billion budget. I think that's a good idea. In that concept of the opening of the arms for everybody to come aboard, Mr. Cummings' idea can be put on the table. What do we do? Can we do, Mr. Cummings? You work for Coca-Cola and other influential international organizations. What can you do for us to build our budget? There are other economists there, Professor Teah, Professor McIntosh, we have Councillor Topman, and other people, and other Kenneth Best, my classmate from Cuttington, and all of these professionals, bring them together and let us use our brains to make Liberia number one.
Yeah, amen. Let's go to the overview of presidential powers, the Liberian Constitution, and the Liberian people.
Well, like all things, if you have a society that is not democratic and was not founded on democratic principles and not founded on the principle of justice and equity, then you can't go too far. I recall when I was vice president of academic affairs, I interacted a lot with President Talbot when he was president from the side of the university. And Dr. Sherman and I, Dr. Teah, and Dr. Liberty, and so we interacted with them regularly. But at the point after Topman died, a strong conservative group came into power, or were always in power from the Tubman time. And then Tarpeh wanted to be a liberal, democratic-oriented person. And as he always says, he's the first president to graduate from university. But he was a progressive person. Some people say Tarpeh mean, Tarpeh did, Tarpeh will give you money for nothing, but he would never see money from you. He would say work for it. So part of the leadership history has been on the negative side. Doe came in there, and instead of his first few years, he spent time on violence and intimidation. But Tarpeh, for his side, was always open for ideas to create a democratic forum. President Sirleaf came in, and in the end, she said she was overwhelmed by corruption and failed to reconcile her people. So let us set up a system in which all past governments can come and tell the rest of the world what they did wrong and what mistakes they made and how those mistakes can now be corrected. As long as we have life, rather than criticize each other, let's work for the answers. And while that is being done, give the young people a chance. Without a strong student population, which are generally democratic and integrative, if you suppress the student population, political action, then the problem is getting out of hand. And so these are challenges that the leaders, including President Weah, will have to look at. And since his arms are open, many of us are willing to work with him to make the success of those arms, because when we succeed in his era, that's his era. That will be his legacy. And then he can say, achieve this. Today, if you look at the graveyard on Center Street, Ellen can take pride in an excellent graveyard. Many people who grave, they can't find their people from, and all these things have happened. But that was her era. But it started before her era. But the 12 years could have made a difference. Why didn't she do so? Number two, President Tarpeh has died. The only person that is buried in the executive pavilion grounds there is Tubman. Why haven't we given Tarpeh an official burial? Why haven't we given Doe an official burial on those grounds? Until at such time it can be determined what future president or officials will be buried. Those kind of things bring people together, create unity, create solidarity. But you can't just have Tubman alone there. Tarpeh is in fact, he did his own fair share, which was commendable. And so we should look at these things and see how we do, based on the rule of law, as I said before, and commitment to good governance. You can't go wrong.
An overview of the national challenges. Now, let's go to an overview, and then we can summarize this and bring in our viewers.
Well, we can do a brief overview, some of which I've already done. I will bring the viewers in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the overview, we've talked about it. We had a society that was not based on fair play and justice. We had Chewy Party and other people who did their own thing. The Coup came in, and the coup makers came in, and they were the saviors. They were going to kill corruption. They went and shot wonderful people on the beach for corruption. Then they turned around and became more corrupt than the people they shot. Somebody got to explain that. And these are things that if Doe were living, he too will have to explain that. You don't put people on the pole and send them to their death and say, well, you did it because you have power. Power is meaningless if it is abused. So those are the challenges that we have to look at and apologize for. And the issue of education, which is the heart of the overview problem, health problem. Monrovia is the only national capital in the world that has more sanitation surrounding places than anywhere else. Booster Quarter, Sonian Wing, you name it, they're all filthy people. Even before Ebola came in, that's what brought Ebola in. Why was Ivory Coast not caught with Ebola? Because all of these places were saturated with sanitation conditions. So we should learn and then talk to each other without criticizing each other, and let's move forward together. So we can open the floor for discussion, comments, action, and so forth now.
Thank you, Dr. Tarpeh. You touched on a whole lot of things, that we can take days to discuss, if not months. But let's get our viewers' comments, and we start to discuss. We have a lot here. So when we talk about Jackie Sai said that was when the University of Liberia was the center of academic excellence. It's talking about when you were vice president.
Yes.
We were educated at UL. Thanks, Prof.
Yeah.
Patrick Kennedy, Mr. Ja, Atlanta have some of the best internet companies, and you guys still experiencing problems. Yeah, Patrick, sometimes these things happen. Melvin Deshu, we've been misled by comprehension and interpretation. What is the constitutional procedure? I'm not sure if you get that.
Yes. Well, that is a very important point. The guy who told thank you for the small effort we made, we congratulate him as well. But the issue of constitution. Constitution is the document by which a people decide how they will govern themselves and the rules by which they will govern themselves. Now, of all the criticism we had against Doe, this 1976, 86 Constitution is Doe's Constitution. We have not produced any constitution of our own since the original one that was produced from the American side. So we need to making a new constitution a top priority. I will do my very best, where possible, to try to reach out to President and let him making a new Liberian constitution his legacy project.
Why?
Once that is done, then we will have a better society. Look at constitutions that are excellent. The best is the Constitution of South Africa, the best, one of the best ever written in the world. The Constitution of Ghana, the Constitution of Kenya, and a couple of other constitutions that are functional, because the goal is to identify what you would do, how you would do it, and the rules by which you would do it. Even your pay plan will be put in there.
Yeah. So what is wrong with our constitution?
Oh, well, it has nothing that guarantees anything. Anybody can change it the way he feels it and so forth. It's inadequate. It serves a purpose. I was part of that 1983 commission under Sawyer's chairmanship. I was chairman of the political committee. The late Honorable Rudolph Grant was chairman of the judicial committee. And we did the best we could. When we got through with the Constitution, Doe told us he was giving the Constitution to
Dr. B.N. Kesseley and his group.
Yeah, B.N. Kesseley and Mateke Banga. And anybody who took part in writing the Constitution in Monrovia, they see them in Banga, they might lock them up. So for a long time, I went to Cotton, so Banga is next door. I was always in Banga. So I couldn't go to Banga until the thing got fixed. But Ed was a good friend, and we did a lot of things. And I'm proud to know him and so forth. But the Constitution served its time. Because that's why the Americans take pride in the Constitution. They will tell you, whatever you're doing, that Constitution guarantees in the American system respect for the rule of law. You can say anything about any American, but he will tell you, don't joke with the rule of law. That is the foundation of our democracy. We don't have that. As a result, when you look at what happened in the judiciary, when the executive and the legislature decided to impeach the justice, Janet, and people told them, and one of my good friends and former student, Phil Banks, was a justice person. He said it is wrong. Well, those who had the power in the judiciary, in the legislature, they said we got the power, we'll do it, and they did. Well, Justice Janet took his case to ECOWAS court, and the court declared the Liberian judiciary wrong. What they're saying now is that because you've done this wrong, you must correct this wrong. And to build a new Liberian judicial system, you got to keep Mr. Janet there. He is the one that's clear. And the rest of the people now, you got to process them so they can qualify. Because if you don't have a judicial system that is respected nationally and globally, nobody will invest in Liberia. They can bring their money and put it there, but their lawyers will be in New York and other places. They may not even want to use Liberian lawyers because the system has no value. And so unless correction is made to restore the dignity of the judicial system, we are in a long haul. And nobody will deal with us seriously until we correct that, because that's the heart of the economic, social, and cultural being of any society. So that is important. And I think that the president will want to take a look at this, get a few people around, let's bang head back and forward and see how we can do. If we made a mistake, yeah, we made a mistake, we're sorry. But let's put something there that will live long after we are buried and gone. Rather than say, I do it because I can knock my chest and get away with it. It doesn't work that way.
No, it shouldn't work that way.
Yes.
John F. Clark, that's my classmate from Monrovia College, say, Mr. Jab, thanks for inviting Dr. Tarpeh on your show, A Fountain of Knowledge. Jackie Sire said there is no solid educational infrastructure in the country. Fake degrees are rampant with no agency to vet the quality or authenticity of these degrees.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And it's evidenced by the 12 years we're talking about, followed by the 3 years that was inherited. So where do we begin to put the bricks to begin the process? Why do we have a national educational development and health development campaign and call the rest of the world, you come, we're in trouble. Because if you put your education first, you're in business. And that's why I respect one of the legislators, I don't know his name, but he won most of the election recently. Drills, the guy who won the election and beat out the man from the CDC group.
Is that Darius Dillon?
Darius Dillon. Darius said, look, let's give 50% of the income that legislators get now to them. The other 50% put it in the pool. And you have resources to now begin to build your education, your health, and other system. Because when you put your money in the pool, then other people who want to help you will bring their money too.
Yeah.
But you can't give your money to people who are trying to be heroes. As a result, every legislator now is more concerned about his district. I'm concerned with my district. And then development from my district must come through me. So what happened to the civilian leaders in the district? Why can't we now go and do what Dr. Sawyer worked with them to do, put all the division to a point and have national superintendents and officials elected professionally in their counties? So now we see which counties, leaders, and quality people will lead their county forward. Why didn't they do it? Because some people were advising President Salif that if you do that, they ain't got no more power. Then all the power will go from you. Then the people will say, the man got no power. No. That, I must say for the record, was a fundamental mistake. We must elect the superintendents of counties and other officials, including lawyers and everything else, and let them work in their counties. And then Monrovia becomes what the federal government situation is, the center for coordinating and doing all the interaction. Yeah. Once you do that, then you will see competition. You see Lofa County, you will see Magibi County, all of them looking for ways to create opportunities to develop their counties. Then those Americans that are Liberians that are abroad in foreign countries, they can now encourage various countries to invest in the development of their counties. In addition to supplementing what the government gave, donors gave to the Liberian government for projects and activities.
Yeah.
But if you have people going around with $10,500 US every month and never made a straight $100 a month, most of them before that time. So then they all become rich people. They become heroes. They want to run fancy cars. But then you look at the rules. The cars can't fit on the road because they're falling into the ditch. So all of these things are not. We can't take ourselves for a joke. We got to be serious. And I want to work with my fellow Liberians to create a new awareness that we are not jokers, that we are serious, and that we can make a difference.
True. Let's get a few more questions in here before we close. Diana say, well said, Doc. Veronica say, so true, Doc. And there is a question here for you. Dr. Tarpeh, do you see the need to have an institution that will investigate fake degrees? If yes, how do we begin? Josh, see you asking that.
Well, not only fake degree, I started with the quality of the existing institutions first. You got to find out where all the teachers were trained, what education they have, and what kind of qualification they have, what kind of support they get, and all of these. And we should stop treating our country like urban versus rural. All Liberia is one big rural country. Let us deal with each other on level of respectability and provide the services in each county that is deserved. And the issue of fake degree is simple. The Ministry of Education can do that. The same way they can find who paying double pay for what pay they didn't get and things like that. But in addition to fake degree, let's find out the quality of our educational system. How do we compare our high schools with high schools in Ghana? How do we compare them with high schools in Sierra Leone? Sierra Leone now has gone 180 degrees, and with a new leader, they're making a lot of difference and sacrifices. How do we compare them with Nigerians? It is that kind of pool that Africa will get respect. How do we compare them with students in South Africa who are even on a higher level educational plane? We're way down there at the bottom. In fact, we're way below the bottom. Can we now begin to compare ourselves by looking at the programs in these advanced other African countries and see how we can integrate them? Once you do that, then we can say to President Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, who is now the head of AU, we need to pool our knowledge for Africa on a regional basis and begin to move forward for the future of our race, and we will be better for it.
Jackie Sai says, for autonomy and academic integrity, do you think civil society and academics should vote and choose the president of the university?
No, you don't go that route. President of the university is changed by the board on the recommendation of the president. And if the members of the board have a good handle of their own roles, that interaction will take place. But civil society has its own role. It has its own responsibility. It has to order itself. It has to be able to begin to put its house in order. Civil society should begin to say, we organize ourselves and go and see how the market women are doing, what are their problems, what kind of food they're selling, and what kind of so and so and so. What are the opportunities they have? I've seen Ms. Broad, who has done a whole lot of things for our country, organize the traffic people, make people pay their traffic bill, and so and so. She's a GSA, and she's this, she's that. But there's a commendable woman who did a commendable piece of work. We need more Mrs. Broad. We need more Mr. Broad who are committed to making Liberia number one. That, for me, is the challenge.
Patrick Kennedy say, Ambassador Tarpeh, what's your take on the War and Economic Crimes Code and dual citizenship?
It should have been established 10 years ago. I gave it full support, 100% citizenship. I mean, full support. Dual citizenship is a simple thing. The Ghanaians benefit from it more than everybody else. And Ghana now is bringing other Africans to Africa to give them a seat at the table and opportunities. Foreign investors are coming to Ghana. Healthcare are coming to Ghana. When people get sick in Liberia, what you get them? JFK or Ghana? If you got the money, you get it in Ghana, right? Why don't you build your own, woman?
Yeah.
The war crime tribunal and the economic crime tribunal, even the Europeans are trying Liberia when they catch them abroad and say you are part of the war crime, we'll try you. What they are saying is that we cannot respect Liberia until Liberia stands by the 300,000 people that it lost in that war and doesn't want to do anything about it. Yeah. People will say, well, if you're touching, you'll make Prince Johnson vex. What? 300,000 people die, you say we'll make him vex? Well, then Prince come, let's talk here, you side. But at least let her come to the table and let's find a way to end it. But the country will never, ever move until we resolve our crisis of the war crime and economic crime. Because it is that crime that allows corruption and a culture of impunity that prevents us from doing what is right. One of the things, and final thing I want to say about my respect for the Americans, is that no matter what you do, if you break the law, they say we'll lock you up. Right now, they're fighting with one governor in New York. The governor said, yeah, but you got to try me first. You can't just pick me up and put me in jail or say I'm going to resign, I resign. In other words, the rule of law has consequences.
Yeah.
If you do something wrong, we must first give you the due process. If we prove that you're guilty, then you pay the penalty. Those are the kind of things. Even President Trump, as a former president, he's faced with his economic and legal problems. The outcome will depend on the quality of lawyers and other things. But they are saying if you did say we'll find so and so, this is the penalty. All of this is documented. And we Liberians can do it. And we are the closest to the Americans. Yeah. But when they call us the stepchild of America, and we're not doing much to justify that we are capable of gaining respect for ourselves and mobilizing the Americans themselves to say, we'll work with these people so that our moral obligation that we abandoned many years ago can be put in place. And for me, that is a great opportunity.
I was reading the U.S. Human Rights Report on Liberia, and one thing they said that Liberia, even though they cooperate when they catch a alleged war criminal abroad, the country will cooperate. But come to setting our own, we don't do that.
Yeah. We do not believe in the rule of law. That is the culture that we inherited from where, I don't know, but it's been consistent. And if we can make that a law, we can start breaking that arrangement by setting up these courts, the war crime court and the economic crime court. You don't got nothing to worry about if you're not guilty. If you're guilty, fine. Go there, hear your side of the story, and let them give you the penalty that's supposed to come your way. And then we all pick up and then we begin to respect each other. But we cannot start together knowing fully well that I lost a relative in the war. And everybody say, no, we are going to forget about that. Well, we got some personal losses. So we can
won't be bygone. There's a last question. What do you think of Liberians who call themselves sons of the soil? I don't know the context there, but
well, like all human beings, when we die, we go to the soil. So whether you're a Liberian or American, when you go to the soil, you're the soil. But that is not a critical issue because that used to be part of when the natives were looking for reason to give for their own distinction. But once you take people to the beach and kill them for corruption, you turn out being worse than that. Then you got no legitimacy to claim any distinction that is not real. But again, we have to pick up the pieces. For me, this is an era of peace and communication and common sense and willingness to pick up and make the sacrifices. There's a whole lot that we can do in the tourism area. There's a lot that we can do in the mining area. I understand some mining people, sometimes they mine their product and put it in a plane and fly out of the country. And I heard that. I wasn't sure whether they're diamond miners or who they are. But all of these things are things you hear. I don't give credence to them, but I like for us to find out. Because when you are the issue of leadership, it's a privilege. When you are elected to serve as a president or as vice president or as senator or any position you're elected to, it's a privilege to serve your people. And I think that kind of message will help to humble a lot of us. Because when you get a title, you tend to want to jump out of your shoes and behave like you God sent. No, you have an opportunity to serve. And as the people say, when you want to test a person, give him power. How he uses that power can tell you what character person he is. And we must show that we are people of good character when we are giving public responsibility to help us build a better society. And that is the challenge that I invite all of us to try to perform.
Thank you. Doug, I want us to close on this. Talking to you, you're very calm. And when I was preparing for this interview, I think I read a book talking about at a time when you were put in jail. You don't sound like someone who went through a whole lot. So let me read snippet from that. I know you won't see it clearly. But let me read the part that had to do with you. They say, following this confrontation, that is when President Doe sent soldier on the university campus, they said, following this confrontation, Doe dismissed key members of the university administration. Among those given the acts were Mary Sherman, university president, Philip Banks, dean of the law school, Amos Sawyer, dean of political science, Patrick Sayer, administrative VP of the university, and James Teah, VP for academic affairs. Those dismissals were preceded and followed by a series of faculty detentions. In 1980, Dr. James Teah and Professor H.B. Yedo were detained at Post Tarpeh on suspicion of engaging in subversive activities. And it goes on and on and on. That you too cool. You look too calm to be engaged in subversive activities.
Yeah. Well, we went to the what they call it, postdoc here and so forth. No, we had one of our faculty members. I don't know if she's a faculty. Yes, a faculty member. She came from Grand Jada in those days. You know, that was the Grand Jada flag time, and he said that she wasn't giving some grade or something. She wasn't giving, and so they took us to the postdoc here. Somewhere ever they took us. Well, we were there for about 40 minutes. Then I think Jenkins, he was Minister of Justice.
Jenkins Scott.
Jenkins Scott, that's right. Okay. So he heard I was there. So he he sent his boy to go bring that man there. That man was brought me from Cleveland, Ohio, and set me up in Liberia and gave me a chance to make a contribution to the country. Go bring that man, Mr. Yuru, out. You know, and so then I insisted on investigate why they came in there. My office is in the university. Why they came into a different location? You know, so that was the experience. But please text me that. I like the history. That's commendable. I need more of that.
Doc, thank you so much. We hope to have you back. But let me hear your concluding, your parting comments as we draw down the curtains.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Jah, and your staff and the members of the audience community, both in Liberia and abroad, that the challenge we have is to build a better world. But we build a better world by starting with building better the constituent elements, starting from our own communities, from our own sub-regions, from our own regions, and from our continental level. And then together in one concerted effort, we can engage the rest of the world so that we can build a better Africa, because our history is one complicated by slavery and exploitation and all of the things that are not good for for human history. But that has happened. But we can redeem ourselves by doing better and starting a new era that people like Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, Nyerere, and others fought for, so that our own legacy will be a contributing part to a better world, so that when younger people like yourselves and others come, you will have a foundation on which we have made a small difference, even while working with you. In the process, we must respect our young people, educate them, and make student participation in political matters a priority. All you have to do is organize it in a way that everybody benefits from it. That is what makes Europe and America great countries. Today, they are going through their own changes. The blacks in America are taking another look. They say we have worked for 400 years, enslaved time for 100 or 200 some more years, and for 400 years, we built this country on our backs. Now we want an opportunity so we can share in the process. What we in Liberia should be saying is that we need an opportunity to build and then share. And in sharing, let's do everything that is fair and just. And for that, I'm privileged and honored to have been invited by you and your team. And I wish you all the best, and the best for Liberia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Tarpeh, and I want to thank our viewers for hanging in here with us. This show will be on YouTube in few minutes from now. So if you miss it, you can still watch it on Facebook and watch it on YouTube. Continuing to follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, or all social media platforms. Here at Focus on Liberia, we strive to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberian. Now we're going to close our broadcast with the song that unites us. It says, "We are all Liberians. Whether you are American Liberian, native Liberian, you are from the Pele ethnic group, or the Gribble, the Kisi, or the Loma. We are all Liberians. Whether you support this party or that party, or whether you believe in dual citizenship or not, regardless your status, we are all Liberians, and we must do whatever it takes to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night, and God bless you."
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Unity, all we want. Liberian. Unity, all we want. Liberian. Oh, Liberian.